Good evening. This is the World News at 6 on Voice of the People, 90.3 FM. My name is Chioma Innocent, and here are the top stories. Gunmen attack Senator Natasha Akpoti's family residence. Chinese seen giving policemen money in viral video, denies bribery allegation, apologizes. Boy who stood in front of obese convoy freed after 3 months in detention. And on the foreign scene, report claims Trump may shut down U.S. embassies in Africa. Details now. Thank you for staying with us. The World News at 6 begins on the foreign scene, where the Donald Trump administration may shut down nearly 30 United States embassies and consulates around the world, including several in Africa, as part of a sweeping plan to reduce the country's diplomatic presence abroad. A CNN report on Wednesday, citing an internal U.S. State Department document, states that the embassies in the Republic of Congo, Central African Republic, Lesotho, and South Sudan are among those proposed for closure. A U.S. consulate in South Africa may also be shut down. The document recommends closing 10 embassies and 17 consulates. Many of the posts are in Europe and Africa, though they also include locations in Asia and the Caribbean. These include embassies in Malta, Luxembourg, Lesotho, the Republic of Congo, the Central African Republic, and South Sudan. The list also includes 5 consulates in France, 2 in Germany, 2 in Bosnia and Herzegovina, 1 in the United Kingdom, 1 in South Africa, and 1 in South Korea. The proposal is part of a broader effort by the Trump-led government, reportedly influenced by the Elon Musk-backed Department of Government Efficiency, to drastically reduce the size and spending of federal agencies, including the State Department. In a recent development, unknown hoodlums armed with machetes and firearms reportedly attacked the family residence of Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan in the early hours of Tuesday, April 16, 2025, in the Obeiba-Ihima area of Okehi local government area in Kogi State. According to intelligence sources, the attack occurred around 1 a.m. and at least 3 armed individuals were involved in vandalizing the building, including shattering window panes. The incident was promptly reported by the senator's chief security officer, Yakubu Ovanja, to the relevant security authorities. Following a distress alert, security operatives from the Okehi division were swiftly deployed to the scene. While no casualties were reported and no arrests have been made, security teams have documented the damage and preliminary investigations are underway. According to Zagazola Makama, police sources have indicated that the motive behind the attack remains unclear. As of press time, Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan, a prominent political figure in Kogi Central Senatorial District, had not issued a public statement, but she recently actually issued a public statement. The lawmaker has confirmed that gunmen indeed attacked her family residence. Now, confirming the attack in a statement today, Senator Natasha's chief press secretary, Arogbonlo Israel, condemned the attack on the senator's family house in Obeiba, Ihima. He stated that it appears to be a calculated assault in direct response to Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's courageous stance against Senate President Godswill Akpabio. In the statement, her media team condemned the brazen attacks on Senator Natasha's family house on Tuesday, April 15, saying armed men mistakenly believing the senator was present vandalized windows in her grandfather's house. But fortunately, security operatives swiftly responded and repelled the attackers. The statement further noted that this calculated assault appears to be a direct response to Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan's courageous stance against Senate President Godswill Akpabio, whom she accused of sexual harassment. They therefore urged the Inspector General of Police to immediately reinstate her security details. Meanwhile, a Chinese national featured in a widely circulated video showing an interaction with Nigerian mobile police Mopol officers in Kaduna State has issued an official statement clarifying the incident and offering an apology for the misunderstanding it sparked online. The video, which quickly went viral across all social media platforms, appeared to show a group of Chinese delegates engaging with armed Nigerian police officers in what some viewers interpreted as an exchange involving money, prompting public concern and speculation about possible bribery or misconduct. In a statement signed by Mr. Jiang one of the individuals seen in the video, the Chinese delegation strongly denied any wrongdoing, asserting that no money was offered or demanded inappropriately and no bribe was given to the officers.
While the very recent development, severe water scarcity has hit Nasarawa Egon local government area of Nasarawa state, forcing residents to rely on stagnant pools, ponds and other unsafe sources for their daily water needs. Residents across several communities have been scooping muddy water from shallow open ponds, often contaminated with animal waste and debris. These stagnant sources have now become the only option for drinking, cooking, bathing and washing, raising serious concerns about public health. In Angwankuje, a local resident expressed frustrations. While speaking with correspondents, however, during the situation, they disclosed that the water smells and changes color every day, where no one can afford pure sachet water. At some point, observations were made where the residents were struggling to fetch water from a water tanker believed to have been donated by one of the indigents within the community who wanted to help alleviate their sufferings. In a very recent development, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission and the Securities and Exchange, it is yet to receive of airstrikes conducted on insurgent strongholds in Borno State has killed several terrorists. The service said the coordinated air interdiction missions executed under the air component of Operation Hardinkai targeted Kularam and Ara, two locations long considered havens for terrorist activity in the Sambisa general area and the southern Bands. This was contained in a statement by the direct court at precisely 5 panels used by the fighters. Also discovered, however, that later in the day, the NAF asset struck surveillance and reconnaissance missions revealed clusters of armed militants. The back-to-back missions are part of a sustained air campaign designed to erode terrorist capabilities, dismantle leadership structures, and eliminate sanctuaries across Nigeria. In a very recent development, however, the leader, Army Force Headquarters Recruitment Sensitization Team, Anambra, Brigadier General Chima Ekeato, has disclosed that only 200 youth from the southeast have registered for the ongoing army recruitment in the country. Ekeato made the disclosure at a sensitization organized for youth leaders and president generals of different communities in the state. He said there was a need to encourage youth in the various communities to participate in the exercise. He also discouraged, however, that the Anambra State Governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo, gave assurance that the government would continue to sensitize the youth to show interest in the exercise. Soludo, represented by the Commissioner for Youth Development, Mr. Patrick Agamba, urged traditional leaders and rulers and PGs to collaborate in mobilizing 10 youth each from their communities to join the army. Tony Collins said the recruitment targeted youth between the ages of 18 and 22 and encouraged them to enroll in the army. Now moving on to politics, former presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Adebayo, has disclosed that Peter Obi will join the party ahead of 2027's elections. Adebayo said he was not disturbed by the influx of influential opposition politicians into the Social Democratic Party. In an interview with the Daily Independent, the former presidential candidate revealed that he was informed that the former presidential candidate of the Labour Party would join the SDP. Asked if the influx of influential opposition politicians would not limit his chances, he responded that getting his party's ticket depends on his party members. Speaking further, and the former governor of Anambra State joining the SDP, he explained that Obi's people have been in talk with his party. Adebayo added that what Obi and Atiku Abubakar must do if they join is to obey the party's rules. He stressed that the party, or rather with transparency, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu would be defeated in 2027. In Rivers, a coalition of 35 civil society organizations in Rivers State has petitioned the House of Representatives and denouncing what they described as severe and brazen acts of lawlessness and impunity by the state's administrator, Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas. In a letter titled Severe and Brazen Acts of Lawlessness and Impunity being carried out by the administrator of Rivers State, Vice Admiral Ibokete Ibas, and the need to nip them in the bud in the interest of mutual peace and constitutionalism. The coalition called on the chairman of the ad hoc committee in Rivers State to, as soon as possible, disclose, however, in calling out the chairman and the committee members concerning the oversight functions to urgently intervene in halting what they see as a dangerous drift towards authoritarianism. However, the coalition, comprising several prominent civil society leaders, accuses IBAS of undermining constitutional governance by utilizing federal power and security forces to intimidate public officials, suppress democratic institutions, and interfere with the proper functioning of the state government. Now, political parties have strongly opposed including the 37 local council development areas as Lagos State prepares for its forthcoming local government elections, warning they may boycott the election if the issue is not addressed. The parties argue that only the 20 constitutional recognized local councils should be involved in the election. The controversy comes as the Lagos State Independent Electoral Commission LASCEC hosted a stakeholders party with representatives from 19 registered political parties. LASCEC assured the parties of a free, fair, and credible election scheduled for July 12, 2025 for the 20 local government areas and 37 LCDAs, with a rerun set for July 19, 2025. During the meeting, Chairman of the Inter-Party Advisory Council in Lagos, Timilola Akinyode, voiced the displeasure of her members over what she termed neglect by the new LASCEC board. She pointed out that the commission had issued the election notice and guidelines without involving key stakeholders like IPAC, calling it a significant oversight. Several political parties, including the APC, Labour Party, People's Democratic Party, and others, attended the party. Ayinde Olawale of the Accord Party stated that his party would not participate in the elections if the 37 LCDAs were recognized. The state chairman of the Action Party, Dele Oladeji, also urged LASCEC to engage more with political parties and ensure that relevant laws and guidelines were made available to guarantee the success of the elections. You're currently listening to the World News right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. We'll take a very short break. When we return, we'll take more news and then we'll head into the news analysis segment. Do kindly stay with us.
You're still listening to the World News at 6 right here on Voice of the People 90.3 FM. Quadri Alabi, the 17-year-old who became known during the 2023 presidential election for standing in front of Labour Party candidate Peter Obi's convoy, has regained his freedom after being held for nearly 3 months at the Kirikiri Correctional Centre in Lagos. Alabi was discharged today by Magistrate Court in Apapa following legal advice from the Lagos State Director of Public Prosecutions, which found no evidence to support the armed robbery charge brought against him. Inebehe Effiong described his arrest and detention as a diabolical frame-up allegedly orchestrated by local thugs known in the Amukoko area as Lege and Baba Waris. In a recent development, a lawmaker in the Bayelsa State House of Assembly and an ally of the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Nyesom Wike, were captured engaging in a fight. In a video circulating on social media, the Chief Whip of the Assembly, Honorable Gabriel Ogbara, was seen engaging in a heated struggle with the Ogbia Ward 8 coordinator of the pro-Wike political group, the New Associate. The footage was posted by Judge Turner, a known supporter of Wike and former legal advisor to the PDP in the South Zone. Turner, who was recently suspended by the Bayelsa PDP, has been at loggerheads with Governor Duye Diri over plans to organize a rally in Yenogwa in support of Wike. The event is scheduled for Saturday, April 26, 2025.
All right, joining us via the telephone is Barrister Fred Nzako, who is a political, national, and social affairs commentator. Barrister Fred Nzako will be responding to some questions posed at him. Barrister Fred, good evening and thank you for joining us on the World News at 6. Thank you very much. Barrister, we'll start from the political scene before we move into other issues. Now, days after the governor of Abure State, Alex Oti, led a delegation to the Independent National Electoral Commission to submit a certified true copy of the Supreme Court judgment over leadership of the Labour Party, the commission still has Julius Abure on its website as the national chairman. Now, Alex Oti, Peter Obi, the Labour Party presidential candidate in 2023, they all went to INEC office. They were actually admitted or accommodated by Sam Olamileku, that is the acting chair, that particular day to welcome them. Now, this is the scenario. INEC had told them that they were going to look into this, but they would try to be transparent. Now, in light of this development, Adebayo of the Social Democratic Party has told us that Peter Obi will join the SDP, but that for him to join the SDP, they have to abide by the rules and ensure that there is transparency so that they can unseat the APC in 2027. This is the second time Adebayo is coming out to make this reference. Peter Obi, on his part, has not said anything about joining the SDP. He has maintained that he's still with the Labour Party. So if Adebayo is insisting that the team of Peter Obi has, reached out to him, that, what are the means or the process through which they can join the SDP, would you advise, or do you think that Peter Obi should leave the Labour Party, considering the fact that despite the Supreme Court ruling, INEC still listed Abure as a chairman of Labour Party, and you already know what the party is actually going through internally?
Yes, Esther, you raised so many issues about 3 issues in one
question. Yes.
One issue of INEC continuing to recognize Julius Abure as the chair of Labour Party.
Yes.
I can tell you that if you got information from the website of INEC,
yeah,
meaning that they have not changed the information there, it may be misleading because most government parastatals and agencies are very lazy at reacting to issues, especially with changing the information on the website. If you go to some agencies, even their telephone line will still be bearing analog landlines of the past 15, 20 years. And we have mentioned that issue several times, that government organizations must be up and doing in the information they give out to the public. Because the whole wide world is now going digital. And it's important that they touch their information appropriately almost on a daily basis. That is on one side. On the other side, if it is true that INEC still recognizes Julius Abure, then that means that INEC may have fallen into the confusion that followed that Supreme Court judgment. Because immediately after the judgment, there were so many interpretations. And some people were of the opinion that until we see the certified true copy of the judgment, then we will now know what exactly the judgment talked about. But most people believe that Julius Abure was unseated by the Supreme Court. Even though the judgment did not replace him with anybody, there was a lacuna of sorts, and that was why Lamine Papa jumped up and said that he was the chairman. Julius Abure still insisted he was the chairman, and the Usman-led committee stated that the Supreme Court had recognized them. There was that confusion of interpretation across the wider spectrum of not only the Labour Party but of the country. But it is also important that INEC should not jump into such fray. INEC should be very clear in their thoughts. Then the issue of whether, on account of these inconsistencies and issues and problems of Labour Party,
yes,
whether His Excellency Mr. Peter Obi would leave Labour Party for another political party, SDP or whatever other name, it is best to be served to the public by Mr. Obi himself. There has been a lot of speculation as to whether he was moving or not, and he has not said so. Neither has his spokesperson said so. There were also speculations that he was going to form a coalition, and following El-Rufai's call, when El-Rufai openly joined SDP, El-Rufai was calling them to come and join him. The El-Rufai's call does not translate automatically to the fact that P2B has agreed to join SDP. I can tell you that everything still is still under speculation whether P2B will join or not. He has not said he will join. Neither has he said he will not join. Now, if the SDP is trying to woo him to join, that simply tells you that Mr. P2B is a beautiful bride in Nigerian politics. It's as straightforward as that. So many parties want him to join them. So many. Not only the SDP, some other parties want him to join. And because the moment he joined Labour Party became a party to reckon with. And many people are even of the opinion that if he leaves Labour Party today, Labour Party may collapse back to its former status. And that is why maybe SDP is trying to cut him and then ask him to come and join. I think the whole thing lies under speculative minds. None is concrete, even though politicians will never tell you their next move. But it has not become clear. Neither is it become glaring that Mr. P2B is moving to any other political party.
Well,
whether it is interest to move or not lies in his understanding of the situation.
All right, Barrister Fred in Circle, there are permutations that the obedient movement, that is the supporters, the support base of Peter Obi, actually do not want him to remain in the Labour Party. Now, the situation as it stands now with the political climate that is very tense is, if Peter Obi decides to leave the Labour Party, it would seem like he is not a leader that knows how to coordinate and put a sense of organization when the chips are down, just like what transpired in the PDP before he left. Others say, but if he stays in the Labour Party and it feels like the Labour Party has been infiltrated, then there is a possibility that his political career may go moribund. But Peter Obi himself, on several occasions where he has responded to questions from journalists, has disclosed that his only interest is for a good Nigeria, and that the only way Nigeria can be good is to have quality leadership and good leadership. So if Peter Obi is not leaving the Labour Party, and that Adebayo is telling us that Peter Obi will join the SDP, what if he joins and he is not given the the presidential ticket? Because you have big wigs like Atiku wanting to join, El-Rufai, and a couple of persons who have the same interest. What if then he joins, he's not given the presidential ticket? What do you think will happen to his support base, who literally want him to be representing any coalition right now, any merger? They want him to be the party's flag bearer. What then happens if that is not the case?
Nigeria is that we don't have you cannot run an election as a candidate without joining a political party. The one you call independent candidacy. That's the biggest regret, because if P2B runs as an independent candidate, I tell you that he will go very far. The problem with our political system is that people are very greedy. People are very easily compromised, and people are very self-centered when it comes to issue of politics. And it becomes very difficult to manage any political party, irrespective of how well you try, irrespective of how well you mean, irrespective of how well you want the country to go. As long as you are dealing with politicians in Nigeria, they will always bring the black spot to whatever you are doing. It is very easy to wake up a man who is naturally sleeping than to wake up a man who is pretending to be asleep. Most politicians in some of these other political parties are there to do a yeoman's job, a hatchet man's job. They are not interested in building the party. Rather, they are not only interested in themselves, they will very easily collect money and compromise the integrity, the sovereignty, and the health, or even the life of the political party. That is the challenge we are having today in Labour Party. And I tell you that same challenge will go to SDP. And Nigerians have said that the ruling party at the center is the one decimating, using the state resources to decimate other opposition political parties. The problem in the Labour Party is orchestrated by the ruling party. The problem in PDP is orchestrated by the ruling party. So they alleged, even though the ruling party was saying that it is not true. But when the baby dies in the morning because the witch cried at night, there must be a nexus. Because so many people will very easily collect money, very easily collect some favor, very easily collect some interest, and sell their political parties because of lack of ideology, political ideology. This is because of lack of a system where politicians are to serve the public, rather they are serving themselves, and that is the problem. So even if Mr. Peter Obi leaves Labour Party and goes to another party, unless the hands of the party at the center, which is the APC, if the APC decides to, that's what we call it the APC, that they should allow robust opposition. But APC is a party that don't like opposition. They don't like opposition.
A party that used to be a strong opposition.
They played it very well, but today they don't seem to like opposition. Then there is an allegation that they are the ones fueling all the crises in other political parties.
But Barrister, if you were the one, is that not what an opposition is supposed to do? Even if they're the current government, they're supposed to oppose. They cannot sit there and be comfortable. So the question is, why can't the opposition parties feel problem within the APC?
The biggest enemy in every environment is the enemy from within. The enemy from within, it becomes a family, and a member of the family is compromised to continue to scatter that family. There's no way that family will be healthy. No way that family can be healthy. Unless when the members of the family themselves decide not to be compromised. How many Nigerian politicians will be ready to reject endorsements, will be ready to reject huge sums of money, and then keep the faith, keep faith with their party, and keep the opposition robust? How many? I have seen this even happen in my very presence, that so many politicians are essentially self-centered. And until they purge themselves of such self-centeredness, and until the party at the center repents and allows opposition, I tell you that the opposition parties, all of them, will continue to have problems. The other smaller ones seem to not have problems because they don't pose any threat. The ones that are posing threats are BDP, Labour Party, and SDP. And I tell you that they will not have peace until they decide to be selfless, and to think about the future of this country, and to think about the welfare of their parties and welfare of Nigerians that they are angling to represent, or on the other way around, until the party at the center decides to give them a breather. If not, I tell you that all these problems will continue even into 2027 and beyond.
It's quite unfortunate, Barrister, because like you said, the opposition, the coalition, the measure is all geared towards unseating the president, not necessarily about the people's interest or the people's focal point as the center for this coalition. It's just about unseating.
Absolutely, Esther. Sorry to cut you short.
Okay.
The intention of co-aligning, the intention of coming together, if it is to serve the people, fine. But if it is aimed at just to grab power, then it will not serve the purposes for which they are intended.
So if Peter Obi is all about, if Peter Obi's concern is about the people, and it feels like some of those politicians, specifically Atiku, who has tried several times, which a couple of persons feel he should stay away from politics and be an elder statesman. Do you?
Today, it is even going backwards with one problem after another. Why would there be a crisis in the Labour Party to the extent that you can now say that Labour Party is in factions? And some people in National Assembly and the South State Assemblies will now be defecting to other political parties, especially to APC, on the fact that they say there is faction in Labour Party. It is simply because some people have been compromised.
All right, Barrister Fred, my colleague has questions to ask you.
Barrister Fred and Zako, good evening, and thank you for joining us. This is Choma Innocent. Thank you so much.
You so much.
All right, so there is a viral video making the rounds of a lawmaker and someone else whose Wike's ally actually exchanging blows. And I'm talking real fight, almost WWE standard, right? And it's so crazy because you have the chief whip of the Bayelsa State House of Assembly exchanging blows with someone who is meant to be a colleague over the minister of the FCT. Now, the video was shared by someone else who happens to also be Wike's ally. That is Judge Turner, who was recently suspended by Bayelsa PDP. Now, we know that Wike and the Bayelsa State Governor, they are both PDP members. The Bayelsa State Governor said he does not want any rally for Wike in his state because he doesn't want a breakdown of law and order. Can we say this coming to blows by people who are meant to be honorables, who seem to be displaying dishonorable behavior, justifies the fear of the Bayelsa State Governor? What is it about Wike that makes people be ready to lay down their lives and exchange blows for his sake?
Chairman, the answer lies in one word with 5 letters. Money.
Money.
That's all. That's all. Otherwise, is Wike from Bayelsa? That is one question. Second question, what has Wike as an individual got to do with Bayelsa? Why holding rally for Wike? On what basis would there be a rally for Wike in Bayelsa State? On what basis? Just tell me. What for? Is he a king in Bayelsa State or what? He's not his state. He should be busy in Abuja doing his work. So why would people be sending blows because they want to hold rally for him? The answer is Money. When it changes hands, it shifts the brain wave of some individuals. When it changes hands, some people no longer remember their names. That is simply what is going on. And I tell you that it's going on around the country. You saw the women who were protesting against state of emergency in Rivers.
Exactly.
They counted the number of opportunities that they are losing on account of that, and they were real and genuine. You saw others who wore white, and should be white, all in white, looking as if they were angelic in support of the state of emergency. Why do you think that happened? Money. It's a very terrible thing that once it is dropped on the table, so many people will lose their conscience. If Jesus Christ was to come again, the same way he used to flog people who were exchanging money in the church, that is where he will flog many Nigerians because we have lost our consciences.
Quite unfortunate, Barrister Fred Nzako. But just before you go, I want to quickly also ask the question. We've seen so many people with that title of honorable behaving dishonorably. This is not the first time we've seen an honorable coming to blows for whatever reason. I mean, this is the chief whip of the assembly, the one who is meant to maintain discipline in the assembly, throwing blows. Would you actually expect that there will be some form of price to pay for this? Because he has more or less brought shame to the Bayelsa State House of Assembly.
Do they care?
Well, if they threw the blows in the hallowed chambers of the House of Assembly, then they could term it legislative fury. They could term it parliamentary fury, and that whatever goes on in Parliament cannot be taken seriously outside the Parliament. Whatever goes on in Parliament stays in Parliament. But if they exchange such blows outside, then a lot of questions will need to be asked. They will need to be taken for psychiatric and mental examination, because no matter how much money a man collects, it should not turn him into a dishonorable fellow. But some people don't give a damn, and the country has become so badly disoriented that so many people really don't give a damn about their integrity. So many don't give a damn, as long as they are getting what they feel is in their best interest. But for us to build a country, we must look at all these basic moral issues. Because you cannot build a country, the country is not known by flyovers and bridges and highways. The country is known by the quality of the citizenry. And that is how you know a country.
All right, Barrister Fred Nzako, finally, because we need to wrap up the world news at 6. Barrister, do you think that these are signs of how the elections in 2027 will be? Because it almost seems like it's a do or die situation. You just said something that the current administration, the APC, doesn't like opposition. And it's not a healthy, competitive environment if there is no opposition. Opposition makes the political atmosphere very interesting. So if there is no voice for the opposition, or if the opposition is not smart and strategic enough, if they're not able to work ahead and ensure that they have a formidable force, whatever finance they need to put together, whatever mobilization from the grassroots, because at the end of the day, the party cannot do it alone. They need the people to buy into their ideals or their idea. So if there is no opposition, and then it comes in 2027, if what is happening in Bayelsa State is already playing for just an event, are we saying that this may how it may turn out in 2027? In a very, very brief sentence.
We have almost 2 years before 2027 election.
Okay.
Parties have started organizing rallies. Parties have started organizing rallies. Today there's an APC rally in Kogi. They call it Unity Rally.
Yes.
Typical of a political party rally. Possibly that is the same rally they want to organize in Bayelsa. So what is the meaning of that? It simply tells you that even INEC has lost its capacity to handle political parties and to sanction them when they misconduct themselves. That people have started a campaign ahead of 2027 when we are still to hit. It is on May 29 that it will be 2 years of the dispensation. But you can see rallies all over the place. You can see campaigns all over the place. It simply tells you that Nigerians do not want to respect the laws of the land. They don't want to respect the institutions and make this country better. And unfortunately, the institutions cannot sanction them. It simply tells you that the country is getting more and more decades by the decade. And it's very unfortunate.
Barrister Fred Nzako, thank you so much for taking your time to give us your perspective and insight into the questions posed at you on the stories read out on the World News at 6. We sincerely do appreciate your input.
I appreciate you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that's a wrap on the World News at 6. My name is Esther Wachuku.
My name is Chama Innocent. Thank you so much for listening.
Good evening. Obviously, do stay tuned for the evening rush at precisely 7 o'clock. Chama, thank you very much for co-hosting the World News at 6.
Thank you, Esther.